I just finished Assassin's Creed Mirage, and I realized something that I didn't expect to say or to think. And I think Assassin's Creed Mirage is my least favorite Assassin's Creed game in the entire series. Worse than AC Rogue, even worse than Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's not unplayable, but it just wanted to sit. For me personally, it sits at the bottom of my personal AC rankings. And it didn't mean, and it wasn't because it was small or because it's old school or it's not an RPG. I went in open minded. I wanted to like this, but the more I played, the more I kept running into the same problems over and over, and the problems that hit you way harder when you played every Assassin's Creed game and you know what the series is capable of. So in this video, I'm breaking down the 5 or 6 big reasons Mirage fell flat to me. We'll keep it pretty spoiler light. We won't do too many lore dumps. Just the core issues that first one on the bottom of my list. And if you love Mirage, that's great. I get why people do enjoy the world and stealth, but for me, this one just didn't land. Let's get into it. Even though I do consider Mirage the worst Assassin's Creed game, I want to give credit where it's due, because there are things this game does well, things that remind me why Assassin's Creed has always connected with a certain type of player. Not the hardcore lore people, not the trophy hunters, but the folks who pick up a couple games a year and just want a beautiful world to exist in for a few hours a day or a week. And Rob's absolutely nails that part of the formula. Baghdad is gorgeous. The lighting, the sand, the way the sun hits the stone. On PS5, it pops in a way that makes you stop, pan the camera, and just take it in. There were plenty of moments where I had walking through a crowded street or riding a camel through the desert where it felt like one of those old E3 gameplay demos. Ubisoft has always been elite at this, and Mirage Fuse, they still haven't lost that talent, even in a time where they're being criticized more than ever and fairly criticized. And honestly, for a lot of players, that's going to be enough.
It's cheesy. It's bold. The Colby Jack Pub Burger is back at Culver's.
Now we gotta go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Maybe where's the golf cart?
And honestly, for a lot of players, that's enough. After a long day, you don't care about narrative depth or character arcs. You just want to vibe in a beautiful historical city. And honestly, for a lot of players, that's enough. After a long day of work, you don't care about narrative depth or character arcs. You just want to vibe in a beautiful historic city. Mirage delivers that consistently. The other big positives is the stealth and parkour. Valhalla basically abandoned both, but Mirage brings them back in a way that feels clean and satisfying. The movement is smoother, the rooftops matter again, and the Assassin's Focus mechanic lets you sweep through a fortress in a way that actually feels cinematic. It's not perfect, but it's a huge improvement over the last few games. So yeah, before I get into the real problems, I want to be clear, Mirage does have strengths. It's a beautiful world, it's fun to move through, and it's the best the stealth felt in years. But for me, those positives weren't enough to carry for the rest of the experience. One of the biggest reasons Mirage didn't land for me is the writing. Not just the characters, but the villains too. Assassin's Creed at its best gives you personalities you remember. Ezio, Bayek, Edward, Cassandra. Even villains had this presence like the Borgias. They had scenes, they had charisma. Mirage just doesn't have for that. Basim, for me, is one of the least charismatic protagonists in the series. Not because he's quiet, but because the writing never gives him anything memorable to work with. He doesn't have any standout moments, he doesn't grow, and he doesn't really drive the story. Neela ends up being the best character in the game. She has some pretty good one-liners, but she's not really in it too much. Roshan should have been a major emotional anchor, but the voice direction and the writing never give her the weight that she needs. And there's this early game trauma down with the kids. Mirage tries to recreate that classic AC emotional punch, like when Ezio families get killed, Bayek's son, or Connor's village, but it never falls through. Basim reacts for a moment, and then the game never references it again. It doesn't shape his arc, it doesn't deepen his motivations, it doesn't come back later. It forces the emotion instead of earning it. A big writing issue for me is the villains. Mirage uses that pictograph order chart that I'm completely done with, and I guess it's made there so you don't have to, it doesn't hold your hand, you can kind of eliminate targets in the order you choose, but it's so visually unappealing to me at this point. I'm kind of sick of the whole pictograph eliminate the order thing.
Have you not wondered
It's
at your nature?
we'll go into that later of why it's a shallow
Who see more?
propaganda push of
Who
it being a
know
stripped down version of the RPGs.
Even my son knew to ask for
But
change.
you don't meet these people, you don't see them,
When
you don't
he
do
saw your
anything.
hand
You don't
touch
get
and
scenes that
weight the
establish
ancient skin.
who they are or why they matter. You meet the head of the order maybe 10 minutes before
Something
killing her.
more than
There's no tension, there's no prevalence, there's no identity. They're just icons on a board,
Why
and they
speak
let
what
that be the
can be
storytelling
shown?
instead of like the old AC
Come
games
with
where
me, Twilight.
Cesare Borgia
Beneath its
and
temple
Charles
gates
Lee
lies
even.
all the
These
knowledge
people
that
they
you are
build
heir
up and they get their
Your so-called brothers
screen
would sooner
time, and
die
it's a good revenge plot.
than
Like I
see
said,
you claim
you
it.
don't even know who really did
But take heart,
the thing to
master.
the kids, and
We
she's
will
not even really
prepare the
involved in
way.
it, and it's never referenced in this final scene at all. And the craziest part is, I just started Assassin's Creed Shadows, and within the first hour, it already fixes this problem. Yes, it's still going to have the pictograph cart, 'cause I think Ubisoft is committed to that, but it establishes villains early and main villains early. You get a full roads gallery, mass, personalities, hierarchy, a boss on horseback, and instantly you know who these threats are. Mirage never gives you that moment. It never gives you villains to care about or hate. It's all UI and no storytelling. For a series that used to introduce its antagonists with real scenes and weight, Mirage feels like a huge step backward. And when both of your protagonists and your villains don't land, the whole narrative foundation collapses.
Hurts to give precious information for free.
Another
What
huge
job do you need doing
issue for
now?
me was the mission structure. Mirage has one of the
Already
most
know what is
repetitive
on my
mission loops
mind,
in the
eh?
entire
You see,
series.
little Finch,
Almost every
the
single
Daira
objective boils
Alman
down to the exact
is
same
not only
formula.
an important
Go to a
event for
place
the
with a
upper
locked
class
door,
of Kazakh,
find a key or a
but
way
also
in,
for
grab the
thieves.
item, or
Did
kill a
someone
target
take
and leave.
something of
That's
yours
it.
again?
Over and
A
over for
precious
hours.
ceramic
Yes, it
saucer.
has some
Luca
like
has
2
it.
or 3
He
like
has
cool
always
assassination
been
missions
jealous of
where
me.
you can sweep
Ah,
to that fortress in a
where do
cool
you think
stealth,
it is?
but it's not
I
much more
knew
than
I
that.
could rely on you,
And the
little
deeper you get
Finch.
into the game, the
You
worse
should
it
be able
gets.
to
The entire
find it in
last
the
third
crates
turns
near
into
his
this
stall.
non-stop
Be right
chain
back.
of favors and fetch. Do this for me and I'll help you. Run this errand and I'll give you information. It's the same structure, just dressed up with different dialogue. The bizarre assassinations are the perfect examples. It's a story for how many hoops it makes you jump through just to get to the actual target. It all starts to feel like padding. Like the game, like we all heard, the game was supposed to be DLC, but they had to stretch into a 15, 16-hour experience just to get the cash grab and get the thing going. And because the missions don't evolve or escalate, the pacing completely falls apart. There's no sense of momentum. There's no rising tension. No payoff for the work you're doing. It's just the same loop until the credits roll. For a series that's given us some incredible mission design, from AC2 assassinations to Origins investigations to Odyssey's branching quest, Mirage structure feels like a step backward. It's functional but not engaging. Combat in Mirage is another area where the game just didn't work for me. It somehow manages to take the weakest parts of the old Assassin's Creed games and the weakest parts of the RPG era and combine them into something that feels flat and repetitive. It doesn't have flow or animation variety of the classic games, where counter chains and weapon types actually mattered. And it doesn't have the power fantasy or build variety of Origins, Odyssey, or Valhalla, where you can just do super crazy, overpowered attacks that are kind of fun. There's no charge heavy attacks, no ability synergy, no real experimentation. It's just basically dodge and parry and wait for the same 2 or 3 animations to play out. And the enemy variety doesn't help. You're basically fighting the same enemy types the entire game. Once you've seen the first hour of combat, you've seen all of it. There's no escalation, there's no new mechanics. There's nothing that forces you to adapt or rethink your approach. Yeah, maybe you do unlock tools like I use throwing knives a lot and like stealth the smoke bombs a lot, but that's about it. Because again, the action combat is so bad and the stealth combat is so much better in this game. So I try to steer away from the combat a lot. One of Mirage's biggest selling points was that it was returning to the classic Assassin's Creed. On the surface, yeah, smaller map, more stealth, more parkour, but once you actually play it, it starts to feel like surface level nostalgia instead of a real return to form. Because the old AC games didn't have pictograph enemy chart, they didn't replace villain development with a UI screen, they didn't introduce the head of the order 20 minutes before the final mission. Classic AC gave you scenes, personalities, and motivation. Moran gives you icons on a board and expects you to carry the entire story. And then there was the stripped down systems. The marketing made it sound like we're simplifying the things that focus on stealth, but the inventory system is still there, but it's just kind of empty. No meaningful loot, no weapon variety, nothing to experiment with. After about 16 hours, I realized that weapons and gear basically don't matter at all. It's like they removed the RPG elements from Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, but they didn't replace them with anything interesting. The whole game feels like it was designed to look like an old AC from a distance, but once you get close, it's missing the depth that made those games special. It's nostalgia without substance. One of the strangest things about Mirage is how little it actually contributes to the overall Assassin's Creed narrative. There's no modern-day follow-up to Basil's arc from Valhalla.
I know what this is.
No real progression of the franchise's bigger story threads. For a character who plays such a major role in the series timeline, this game doesn't add anything meaningful to his journey. It feels disconnected, like a side story that never ties back into the larger picture.
The key.
And that's where this was supposed to be DLC feeling really kicks in. The story is short, the pacing is stretched, the narrative impact is almost non-existent. When the credits rolled, I didn't feel like I learned anything new about Basm, the Order, or the world of Assassins. The things that mattered most in the series just weren't there. The characters didn't land, the villains had no presence, the mission structure was repetitive, and the story didn't move the franchise forward in any meaningful way. It felt like a side project stretched into a full release, and it never reached the full depth or identity that made the older game so memorable. So while Mirage has the strengths, it ends up at the bottom of my personal AC ranking. Not because it's terrible, but because it feels shallow compared to what the series has been and what it still can be. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to see more videos like this or even live streams of different Assassin's Creed games, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Hope you guys take it later. Keep playing PlayStation. Keep smoking a kush. See ya.